Alright, so the MCU has been pretty mid lately, and with the release of its latest installment into the franchise, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, is it time to say that Marvel's run out of gas? That the superhero fatigue has hit us? And that, well, Marvel has gone dead? Hey YouTube, it's Javin Movie Manfield here. I'm ready to bring you guys my review on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and all my thoughts. Without any further ado, let's get right into the good, the bad, and the overall. Starting with the good. Well, this was the perfect Marvel movie for what we need with the current state of the franchise. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 fit into the overarching story excellently, without depending on other films or required nods for future movies. Which, don't get me wrong, those hints are in here, but they're not bombarded at the audience, like for example Doctor Strange. And the film also takes from the already established Marvel world beautifully, with subtle Easter eggs, hints at past events, and finally is another Marvel movie that can stand on its own. The direction here from Gunn was also excellent. There's great camera movement, beautiful cinematography from Henry Brom, and yet another stellar soundtrack, even if I do prefer the first two films. Additionally, there were very unique visual choices, which sometimes I didn't love, but the distinct style definitely helps Volume 3 stand alone in the MCU. Diving into the camera movement itself, which at an IMAX theater was absolutely fantastic. There were a few times that almost felt theme park attraction-esque. I was not only having fun with the story, but with Gunn's unique and top-notch direction. As for the action, it was also great. The film presents what is probably my favorite action scene in all of Marvel. The sequence presented easily the most distinct action flair we've seen in the Marvel Universe since the elevator fight scene in Captain America Winter Soldier, or the Team Captain America versus Team Iron Man fight sequence in Civil War. The writing for Marvel lately has been problematic to say the least, and in Volume 3, it definitely was not a problem. There was sharp, witty humor, and I would even go as far as to say that the writing here was hilarious. I don't usually laugh with movies, and I did end up laughing here during some of the wrong moments, but when a lot of the jokes were intended to hit, they landed. I noticeably laughed out loud a few times here, and the script did an exceptional job balancing an incredibly fine line between separate tones of humor, adventure, horror, and being very heavily drama-driven. For a film of this magnitude, with this many different emotions being presented, the writing was a huge success. As we get into the acting, Chris Pratt proves yet again why he is a movie star. He delivers a performance filled with tons of heart and emotion, and just looked absolutely fantastic. Mwah. Other standouts were Dave Bautista as Drax, Palm Clementieff as Mantis, and Will Poulter as Adam Warlock. But the true standout was Bradley Cooper as Rocket, who gave us a very deep and touching performance throughout, with lots of different emotions felt just through the changes in his voice tone and rasp. Getting into my last point in the good section, we have the characters, who were awesome in the movie. Characters like Drax, who weren't previous standouts I felt, were given proper amounts of time to shine, and I found a home with many different characters who I personally didn't feel connected with before watching this, like Drax or even Mantis. Every returning character here worked, except maybe Sean Gunn's Kraglin, who was just fine. Besides the returners, I loved the new additions to the gang, and found myself embracing characters who I had previously brushed aside. That being said, this presents a perfect transition into the bad, which I can start out by talking about Adam Warlock. Many people feel like Adam Warlock here was wasted potential compared to his comic counterpart, and personally I've never read the comics, so I can't attest to that statement, but I will say that his character was a bit wasted. With how cool his character design was, how great of a performance Will Poulter gives, and the potential for fantastic action, I felt like he should have stolen the show. And that being said, the character was written as a very one-dimensional and almost gag-like character. He was saved towards the end of the film, and I did find myself being connected with him, but as a whole, Adam Warlock was a letdown here. Before moving into my next few negative points, I do want to preface them by saying that the film as a whole works, and I have very few problems with the movie. That being said, the CGI, which has been problematic for Marvel lately, could have used a touch-up here and there. The effects were nothing to write home about like in the new Avatar movie, which was absolutely breathtaking, but the film CGI was a massive step in the right direction for Marvel when comparing it to that of Multiverse of Madness or Quantumania, from what I've seen of that disaster, which I actually didn't see because I was starting to give up on Marvel. But getting back into Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I wish the VFX artists worked a tad bit more on touching up some of the more heavily computer-generated images in the film, because As a whole, the effects worked. This could have been special, and especially when taking a look at Rocket and the new civilizations presented here. Looking at one of the other few flaws with the film, drawing back to that James Gunn imagery, some of the images are very uncomfortable, and there are a lot of dark themes presented throughout, which I was fine with because I thought it was a new direction for Marvel to take, but I can understand why some people may be taken back by it, or even be drawn away from the film because of it. Finally, for the bad section of this review, Volume 3 could have benefited from being 10 to 15 minutes shorter. While the pacing here really works for the most part, if I were in charge of the project, I would have taken out a few moments. Early on, there was a sequence at a very James Gunn-esque setting, which was 1, gross, but 2, unneeded. The sequence itself may have presented a few memorable comedic moments. The scene as a whole overstayed its welcome. And that being said, the plot somehow managed to stay the course for a lot of the movie though, and it stayed the course at a very fast and energetic pace. As we approach the last part of this review, we get into the overall. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 caps off a great MCU trilogy, and is likely my favorite in the franchise. It's better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and ties all loose strings by the end of the film. The characters are left off with care, and as a whole, the movie was on par with the top-tier original Guardians of the Galaxy. Only time will tell if Marvel is on the upward trajectory again, but there are 2 things I can say with certainty leaving this film. 1 is Marvel has taken a step back in the right direction here, and will likely be rewarded in the long haul for this. My second certainty that I can say is that DC is left off with good hands. Suicide Squad was great. Well, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, that is. And while that had some uncomfortable imagery too from James Gunn, with him overseeing all of DC's projects, I don't see DC putting out another money grab like Justice League or 2016 Suicide Squad for quite a long while. Besides maybe Flashpoint, but we'll see as that comes out pretty soon. As we've reached the end of the video, I wanted to say thank you guys for stopping by. Let me know some of your thoughts on the movie down below in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you all in another video!